Hi, I'm Moshe. I'm a graphic designer who values my independence, even if that means living in my parents' basement apartment for the past 2 years to save money. It's not fancy, but it's mine. Well, as much as anything can be when you're paying your parents' rent to live underneath them. Hey, Moshe, you down there? I need to drop the kids off for an hour. My sister Amanda's voice echoed down the stairwell as I was finalizing a logo design for a new client. I'm working, Amanda. Can't Mom watch them? I called back, trying to keep my voice level. This wasn't the first time she'd tried this. She's got her book club. It's just for an hour, I swear. That's how it always started. An hour would turn into 3, and suddenly I'd lost half my workday trying to keep my nephew Tyler from drawing on my equipment with markers, while my niece Emma had a meltdown over a missing toy. Don't get me wrong, I love those kids. Tyler's 4 and already showing some artistic talent, and 2-year-old Emma has these huge brown eyes that make it hard to stay mad. But there's a difference between being the fun uncle on weekends and becoming an unpaid babysitter. Fine, bring them down, but I really need them gone by 2. I have a client call. I could hear the kids thundering down the stairs before Amanda even responded. You're the best. I'll be back super quick. 3 hours later, I was still entertaining the kids while trying to reschedule my call. You're so good with them, Mom said when she finally came down to check on us. Tyler never sits still that long for anyone else. That's because I let him use my tablet to draw while I work. It's not exactly quality time, Mom. She gave me that look, the one that said I was disappointing her somehow. Family helps family, Moshe. That night at dinner, the bomb dropped. Amanda's daycare is raising their rates again, Dad announced, passing the potatoes. It's becoming impossible for a single mother to make ends meet. I nodded sympathetically, already sensing where this was headed. We've been thinking, Mom chimed in. Since you work from home anyway, it would make sense for you to watch the kids during the day. I nearly choked on my water. Every day, I have a job, Mom, a real one. Drawing pictures on your computer? Dad scoffed. Amanda has a real job with real hours she has to keep. So do I countered. I have deadlines, meetings, clients. Look, Dad cut me off. We've been charging you below market rent for that apartment. Way below. We're thinking it's time to adjust that. Unless, Mom added quickly, you're contributing to the family in other ways. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. Let me get this straight. Either I become Amanda's free nanny, or you double my rent. Nobody said double, Dad replied, but his eyes said otherwise. What does Amanda think about this? I asked. She's grateful for the help, Mom said quickly. Too quickly. I looked around the table at their expectant faces, feeling the trap closing in around me. Something had to give, and they clearly didn't expect it to be them. I pushed my chair back from the dinner table and took a deep breath. Can we discuss this like adults? I have a legitimate business that pays my bills. Watching Tyler and Emma full-time would basically end my career. Dad wiped his mouth with a napkin and shrugged. Careers change. Family is forever. So is the damage to my client list if I start missing deadlines, I countered. Mom reached across the table for my hand, which I pulled away. Just until Amanda gets back on her feet, 6 months tops. That's what you said about her moving back home after the divorce. It's been 2 years. The next morning, I tried again with Dad while he was having coffee. I've run the numbers. If I watch the kids even 3 days a week, I'll lose about 40% of my income. Then you better find more efficient ways to draw your little pictures, he replied, not looking up from his newspaper. Your sister loses her job. She and those kids end up back here full time. You want that? Before I could answer, the basement door burst open and Tyler ran in with a toy airplane, Emma toddling behind him. Sorry, Amanda called out, already halfway out the door. Emergency at work, back at 6. Amanda, I have a video call in 20 minutes with a potential big client. She was already gone. My phone pinged with a meeting reminder. Diane Robertson, creative director at Access Marketing, the kind of client that could change everything. 5 minutes into the call, while I was showing my portfolio, Tyler started screaming because Emma had grabbed his airplane. Is this a bad time? Diane asked, her perfectly arched eyebrow raised on my screen. No, just unexpected childcare duty. My portfolio speaks for itself. Her smile tightened. We need someone reliable, Moshe. Our deadlines are non-negotiable. After the call ended prematurely, I texted my best friend Jake. Need beer and sanity. Tonight? We met at our usual spot, a dive bar with decent wings and cheap pitchers. They're manipulating you, Jake said after I explained the situation. Classic guilt tactics. It's family, though. Family doesn't threaten to double your rent unless you provide free labor. That's extortion. I sighed, nursing my beer. Amanda dropped the kids off again today. Cost me a potential contract with Diane at Axis. Document everything, Jake said, suddenly serious. Times, dates, lost income. Take screenshots of canceled meetings, emails explaining why you missed deadlines. What good will that do? Evidence for when you finally stand up to them. The next week was a nightmare. Mom borrowed my key and I'd come back from grocery runs to find the kids already in my apartment. Amanda started dropping them off earlier and picking them up later. I had to work late, she'd say, though her fresh manicure told a different story. Dad left a revised rental agreement on my desk, double the current rate, effective in 30 days unless other arrangements are made. I started a spreadsheet like Jake suggested. Monday, kids dropped off 8:30 a.m., picked up 7:15 p.m., meeting with web design client rescheduled. Tuesday, kids arrived 7:45 a.m. while I was in shower. Had to cancel call with Diane, who was giving me one last chance. On Friday, Jake came over after the kids left. Check this out, he said, pulling small devices from his backpack. Security cameras? With audio. Time to gather real evidence of what they're doing to you. And then what? Jake grinned. Then we set a trap they can't wiggle out of. We installed the cameras that evening, one in the living area, one near my workspace, and another facing the entrance. Jake showed me how to access the footage remotely. Make sure you save everything to the cloud. If they find these, they'll try to delete the evidence. The next morning, I received an email that changed everything. Moshe, despite our rocky start, your portfolio impressed our team. We'd like to offer you a full-time position as senior designer. Diane. The salary was double what I currently made freelancing. There was just one catch. I'd need to be in the office 3 days a week starting in 2 weeks. My phone rang. It was Mom. Amanda needs you to take the kids all day tomorrow. Her babysitter canceled. Perfect timing. Actually, I scheduled an important client meeting. It could lead to a big contract. Reschedule it. Family comes first. Can't do that. Already rescheduled twice. Moshe, don't be difficult. What's more important, your little computer drawings or your niece and nephew? I bit my tongue. I'll see what I can do. The next day, I deliberately set up my workspace for the video call where the kids would most likely cause chaos. Right on cue, Amanda dropped them off 15 minutes before my meeting. The kids had donuts, so they might be a little hyper. Good luck. When my call with a potential client began, Tyler was already having a meltdown over a broken toy. I'm so sorry, I told the client as Emma started wailing in solidarity with her brother. Unexpected childcare situation. The client ended the call politely but firmly. Another job lost. That evening, Dad cornered me in the kitchen. Your mother says you're being difficult about watching the kids. I lost a client today because of the babysitting. There will always be more clients, but Amanda only has one chance to raise those kids right. And that's somehow become my responsibility. It's called being part of a family. This artsy career of yours was always a phase anyway. Time to grow up and do something that actually matters. The cameras caught everything, including the conversation later that night when Amanda came to pick up the kids. I don't see why he's complaining, she said to Mom, not realizing I was listening from the stairwell. It's not like his job is real anyway. What have you been doing with all the money you're saving on childcare? Mom asked. I got a new car. And I've been seeing this wellness coach who's totally changing my life. It's an investment in me. Maybe don't mention that to Moshe. I'd heard enough. Back in my apartment, I called Jake. I got the job with Diane, and I found an apartment near their office. When are you telling your family? Not yet. I need one more piece of evidence. The next day, I approached Dad with the rental agreement he'd left me. I've been thinking about your offer. What if I agree to watch the kids? Would you put in writing that my rent stays the same in exchange for childcare? He looked surprised but pleased. Sure, we can draw something up. Great, let's make it official in writing. That weekend, I signed a lease on my new apartment while pretending to consider Dad's handwritten childcare for rent agreement. My plan was coming together perfectly. The annual family barbecue couldn't have come at a better time. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone would be there to witness what was about to go down. I arrived early with a USB drive in my pocket and a resignation letter for my so-called childcare position. Moshe, come help with the grill, Uncle Pete called out. And tell us about this design job your mom's been bragging about. I raised an eyebrow. She's been bragging about my career? Of course. Said you're doing so well you've been helping Amanda with the kids. That was rich. I helped set up while watching Mom, Dad, and Amanda play the perfect family for everyone. The moment came after dinner when Dad clinked his glass. We have an announcement. Moshe has officially agreed to help Amanda with childcare in exchange for reduced rent. Family helping family. Everyone clapped. Perfect timing. Actually, I have an announcement too, I said, standing up. I've accepted a full-time position with Axis Marketing. I start Monday. Mom looked confused. But what about the kids? Let me show you something interesting. I connected my laptop to the TV and played a highlight reel of the past 2 weeks. Amanda dropping kids off and leaving for 9 hours. Dad threatening to double my rent. Mom using her key to let herself in while I was working. The room went silent. This is what family helping family has looked like. I've lost over $5,000 in contracts because of unscheduled childcare dumping. You've been recording us? Dad sputtered, face reddening. In my own apartment, which I pay rent for. Totally legal. Next came the clip of Amanda bragging about her new car and wellness coach while skipping childcare payments. Aunt Carol gasped. I thought you said you couldn't afford daycare. It's more complicated than that, Amanda stammered. I handed Dad an envelope. Here's my 24-hour notice. I've already moved my essential stuff to my new place. I'll get the rest tomorrow. You can't just leave, Mom cried. Actually, I can. And by the way, I've been calculating what you owe me for unauthorized childcare at standard rates. I slid a bill across the table. $18 an hour, including overtime. This is ridiculous, Dad sputtered. We gave you a place to live. I paid for a place to live. You tried to extort free labor under threat of doubling my rent. Uncle Pete stood up. Tom, Linda, is this true? You tried to force the boy to babysit? We were helping Amanda, Mom insisted. By taking advantage of Moshe? Aunt Carol asked. That's not right. 6 months later, things had changed dramatically. Mom and Dad weren't invited to half the family gatherings anymore. Amanda had to start paying for real childcare, which meant returning her fancy car. And me? My office overlooked the park. My client list was growing, and my new apartment had no basement dampness. Mom called once a week, leaving increasingly desperate apologies. Dad sent a letter about misunderstandings and family loyalty. Amanda texted that the kids missed me. I never responded. Some family ties aren't worth repairing when they were just chains all along. What would you do if your family tried to use family obligation to take advantage of you? Would you cut them off completely like Moshe did, or would you give them another chance after setting firm boundaries? The line between family support and exploitation can be blurry. Where do you draw yours? If this story resonated with you, hit that like button so more people can see it. Subscribe for more revenge stories about overcoming toxic relationships and standing up for yourself. Your comments help me know which stories to share next.